Hello and welcome to the 9th episode of the Forrin podcast. My name is Mike Bowden, coming right down your ear lobes from Odense in Denmark. And you are?
My name's Patrick Garratt, and I'm recording this in Montpellier in the south of France.
Fantastic. We mixed it up a little bit this month, Pat. We had an interview out last week.
Yeah, we did very well as well. So well done for that.
Yeah, and a colleague of mine, Rasmus, who is our kind of YouTube listener, the only YouTube listener we have, but he commented on it saying that, funnily enough, two English people can be different. He said, "So
what?
Yeah. So those kind of what's it called, stereotypes and that we're all kind of like just like one homogenous mass."
Oh my God!
Yeah, we like have different opinions and
we're expanding people's consciousness.
Yeah,
I fucking love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, but thanks very much, obviously, again to Stacey for doing it. That was really kind of him. And apparently his wife said that she couldn't recognise him. So
that is absolutely what greater praise, Mike.
Yeah, what greater praise. Yeah, his wife just doesn't know who he is anymore. She's packed the bags. No, and what's it called? And something that what's it called? He said that you might have liked, Pat, that kind of links to the last sort of official episode, episode 8 about the monarchy, is that which kind of segues nicely onto what we're going to talk about today. That when he became a Danish sort of national, got his Danish passport, and I've forgotten the date now, and I should know, but I've forgotten. But the date, but it's important because the day he did it, right? He went in, did the whole ceremony, which we'll get to later on in the episode. This is what the ceremony is, and then when he came out on his phone, he saw that Queen Elizabeth had died.
Oh my God!
So basically, him leaving the UK officially
killed the Queen.
Yeah, so he killed the Queen, and
it's the universe speaking to him, Mike.
That's it. Oh yeah, so he thought you'd like that. He said. So
I do like that. That's amazing.
But yeah,
just for the record, sorry, is it Stacey you spoke to?
Yeah, Stacey. That's right. Yeah.
Stacey, I'm really sorry. I haven't actually listened to it yet. I've been completely murdered with work. But I will listen to it in the next few days. So I'm sorry about that. So if it appears as though I haven't got a clue what Mike's talking about, that's because I haven't actually listened to it. No. I'm really sorry, but I will get to it as soon as I can. And so, Mike, what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, we're going to again two segues to the same thing.
My God, double segue.
It's a double segue because we've got another email.
Oh my God!
From another Garratt. It's and this time it's Zoe. Last time it was Aid, and this time it's Zoe. Thanks very much, Zoe, for writing to us.
Zoe's my sister, for the record.
And everyone listening is also welcome to email us at forrinpodcast@gmail.com.
That's forrinpodcast@gmail.com.
That's it. And also there's Instagram and everything else at Forrin Podcast. So if you want to write a DM there, then we'll probably block you. But yeah, so anyway, this is the email. Hi both. That's me and you, Pat. Okay. I have a question I'd like to ask, please. Please, can you tell us if there were any specific milestones, stages which made you feel more integrated? ? Were there any particular events, processes, pieces of paper that made you feel this way? Do you think you have ever fully integrated, or do you always feel some difference? Thank you. Big up the pod, Zoe.
Nice.
Thanks very much for that, Zoe. And well, if Zoe probably has listened to the interview with Stacey, and because but this is all going to come. This is all going to make sense to you, Pat. Because what we're going to talk about this week is, are we, or you, or I, or whatever, are we going to become nationals? A French national, as in having a French passport, or a Danish national having a Danish passport? And Stacey actually spoke about this. We spoke about it on last week's sort of Forrin podcast extra. Check it out if you haven't already. And he talks about that for him, well, we kind of used an analogy really. It was almost sort of for him it was like sort of getting married in the fact that you can live obviously with someone whom you love, and there's nothing really that's going to sort of split you up at all, or maybe you have children with that person or whatever. But getting married kind of just it kind of brings things to a different level in your relationship, and maybe declaring your love for one another in front of family and friends, etc. It does kind of add something else, perhaps. So for him, he said that getting a Danish national was almost sort of like the final step.
Okay.
And he actually said that he looked at the Danish flag differently.
Okay.
After he became a Danish national.
I see.
So there you go.
Okay. Well.
And a little birdie tells me, Pat, and that little birdie is you, that you are thinking about becoming a French national.
I am going to apply for a French passport, yeah.
Which has probably got most of our listenership now reeling in shock. How can a man who recognises no nation want to become a French national?
I'll get onto that in a bit.
Yeah,
I'm going to answer Zoe's question.
Yeah, great. Yeah, do that first.
Just talk about my sort of status in France. Like I've got it's called a carte de séjour, which is it gives me permanent residency. Basically, I've got like and my family. We all have the same rights as any French person, apart from the fact that I'm not a French national and I can't vote. So it means that I'm here legally, basically. Obviously, after Brexit, we were all given automatically. It was actually a very smooth process. We were all automatically given a 10-year carte de séjour, which means that we live here, and it's all completely fine, and and that's kind of the end of it. Does that make me feel more integrated? It makes me feel safer, and I'm going to get onto that in a little while.
Yeah.
For me, like the concept of the word integration is pretty tough. I think the steps that we've talked about. I mean, we talked about this previously at length. Really, the steps that really made me feel more integrated, and still makes me feel more integrated, is my increase in the competency in the language.
Yeah.
Like the more I can speak the language more naturally and more fluently, as sort of like young French people do. For the record, like young people's French, like Gen Z French or whatever.
Hey, kids.
Is like pretty Martian. And there's a real tendency in sort of like in the way that young people speak to really shorten everything, to use a lot of, well, obviously in any country this is the case, but like because I'm getting a lot more used to that now, and that makes me feel more integrated, because it takes away the sort of barriers of communication. And so like when I got my carte de séjour, I mean, I remember when the woman in the mairie, she gave it to me, and she gave me this big beaming smile, as if to say, like, well done, kind of thing, welcome, after I'd been living here already for, like 10 years or whatever. I felt nothing, Mike, nothing. My heart was cold. Nothing moved within me. Do you know what I mean? I didn't feel any kind of like, surge of like pride or anything. Do you know what I mean? I felt absolutely, and I was a bit confused actually, because and as was she. Because I think that she thought that it was just like, wow, this is amazing, and blah de blah. And I was just like, well, okay, well, here I am, and I've got this bit of plastic now that says that I'm not gonna be kicked out for whatever reason. I don't know, like how do you feel about it? Like what happened to you? Do you feel integrated? Do you? I guess maybe more so than I do.
I think what you said about safety is a good point. I think. Thinking about I was really pleased, because when I first came here, I only had a work permit, and that was temporary. So my sort of work permit was based on a contract. So I had to get my employer to sort of sign to say that I had a job and how long that job would maybe last for. And at the start, for some weird reason, he only gave me like a year, so I only had a year. But then, so when I had to reapply, he kind of just gave me sort of like 3 years or whatever. Yeah. And then when I started to study, then the conditions for my permit changed. So I then had to apply for a sort of a study permit, which I got. There was no problem with it, but just getting them was just sort of nice. And then after about, I think it was about, I did nothing basically. I did nothing to get it is what I mean. After about 6 years or 5 years, all of a sudden, just through the post, I got a permanent residency.
Yeah, it's the same in France. You don't just get it; you have to apply for it. But it's exactly the same. I think. It's
I was just given it.
It's 6 years in France. I think. Like, well, after you've been here for 6 years, you are effectively entitled to it. I mean, that's changed a little bit now, but like,
and after
that was the case for me.
And after Brexit, I think maybe I'm jumping the gun a bit on maybe what you want to talk about, but just like everybody else, I suppose, who's a British national, an expat, a British immigrant, we sort of checked out what could happen, what might happen. And I read something, I think it was either from the Times, or the Telegraph, that basically said that because, I've been here at least many years and I live here and I work here and I have a family here, it's nothing to do with Europe anymore. It's actually to do with the UN, and I'm protected by the International Court of Human Rights. So saying to me or you, Pat, that, okay, now you're not a European citizen anymore, we can now deport you. They can't actually do that. And but now I have to have a 10-year permit because Britain, for those of you listening who haven't realised, Britain left the European Union on the 23rd of June 2016, and or voted to leave it. So that now means that I have a kind of permit card for 10 years, and I have to. It was all pro forma, so again, there was no kind of doubt.
No, it was exactly the same for us. Like we were basically, once the actual process of Brexit sort of got into motion, and deadlines were happening, and bits of paper had been signed, and blah blah. We were effectively summoned. We got like letters through the post to saying because obviously we were here as on British passports, and we did just go there, and we had to have like interviews. I mean, we had to show them everything. We had to show them like the color of our pants pretty much, and but there was never. There was nothing that caused any kind of problem, at all ever. And we just sort of went through these interviews, and they just gave us the card and said thanks, and that was the end of it.
Yeah. But to answer Zoe's, I was just going to answer Zoe's question. And again, really, I'm just going to echo what you said. I think what makes me feel most integrated is, it's language based, but it's not just the fact that I can speak it and understand it. It's that I can say what I want. I can communicate. Yeah. I can communicate irony. I can sort of, I can take the mick. Yeah, I can use slang. I can even sort of imitate kind of local dialect slang and stuff. And and when I can do that, that kind of maybe makes me feel good about myself. It makes me feel a part of. It makes me feel a part of the not society, of the country. It makes me feel integrated, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
And in a way, what we've actually been talking about quite a lot on here is the times when I feel it sounds. How do I put it?
Don't feel integrated.
Yeah. So I don't feel things about society here in Denmark, or about things that happen here or whatever, that actually make me feel outside. And so in a way, I would just, like everybody else, would just like to go about my business, go about my day, and just be me, and not really have any kind of reminder that I'm kind of some other than everybody else. Yep. But if a milestone, I think maybe just this progression of language and understanding and humour.
I would agree with that completely. I probably feel more integrated now than I ever have done, and that's because I've spent literally 6 years in the university system in France. I mean, like today was a pretty amazing experience. Actually, I'm doing a master's in Nîmes. I live in Montpellier, but Nîmes is about 50 kilometers from here. And we're finishing. Like, you know, we've got I'm in the second year of it, and we've got our final lessons basically before we start our work placements and blah blah. And today was pretty emotional. You know, it's like we've been together as a group for like 2 years, and obviously the people that I'm with, all of the students, I'm by far the oldest. I'm like 50 years old, and you know the other students are probably, you know, they're in their early 20s. You know, I mean, there may be a few sort of like slightly older people and slightly younger people, but like generally they're about sort of like, you know, 23, 24. And, you know, we were talking today because the course that we were doing today was about professional insertion, about getting a job, about our work placements and so on. And you know, we were talking as in groups. The class was split up into groups. And we were talking about what we expect to get from our work placements and so forth. And there was a pretty uniform answer that was coming back from the other students in that, you know, their main worries were that they literally weren't capable of doing these jobs. You know, these jobs I'm doing a media course basically. So they're going into things like, you know, sort of escape game creation and so forth. And you know, so I said to them, look, seriously, I know, you know, I'm a lot older than you, and like, you know, I realized a long time ago that what other people think of me is irrelevant, you know, and really shouldn't weigh on what I do, and it took me a long time to learn that. And the teacher like agreed and so forth. So she set us, like, because it was obviously an issue, you know, but for a lot of these students, you know, she kind of set us this task of where we would write down sort of good things about ourselves, and then she gave us sort of like one or two other students to write down, you know, good things about them, like a list of 5 things or whatever. And the one of the other students who you know basically burst into tears when she did it, because like she sort of got to the bit where she was talking. She was kind of a bit teary already. She got to the bit where she was talking about me, and she just started like really like weeping. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, saying that, you know, I was a really calming influence and so forth. I was like pretty stunned, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I often feel like quite an outsider, and in those moments I really didn't, you know what I mean? You know, it was like there was no language barrier whatsoever, you know, there was a proper like emotional connection and so forth, and it's taken a long time to get to that place. It was like that was a kind of like marker for me today, literally today that happened, you know. So I think, like, to answer the question, Zoe, feeling integrated for me really boils down to like emotional connection, being able to sort of communicate effectively to the point where you literally create like meaningful emotional relationships with people. I think that's what it really boils down to me, not pieces of paper and, you know, a sort of status that's on a computer somewhere. You know, really for me, feeling integrated is all about like personal relationships, really.
Yeah. Great.
So
yeah.
There
you go. You're changing. You're becoming soft in your old age, mate.
I was always soft, Mike. Never hard. So like, let's we can segue. Like here comes the segue.
Here comes the segue.
Let's talk on. Let's.
Well, shall I start, or do you want to start? Because I've got a big story about you know why I'm never going to get a Danish passport ever.
Okay, so.
Or you can tell us why you want one. It's up to you, mate, where we start.
I'm going to ask you first then, because
okay.
I know you've told me we're going to talk about passports and taking on sort of official nationality and so forth. Obviously, like Mike, you've been in Denmark for a really long time, a lot longer than I have. I've
almost
been in France
a quarter of a century. Yeah,
that's it. I've been in France for like 14 years or whatever. But you refuse to get a Danish passport. And I know you've had a bit of a media ding dong about this. Is that right?
I have. I wrote in the sort of the Danish equivalent of maybe the English newspaper The Guardian, sort of centre left. I don't know what that would be the equivalent of in France, but yeah, sort of centre left newspaper.
Le Monde.
Okay, yeah, and it was a half a page spread. It's not bad for a sort of a broadsheet, you know, one of those big newspapers. And it was basically because, and you know, this can be sort of sound rather arrogant. But there was two things to my argument. One was that Denmark, or most European countries, Western European countries, pride themselves on democracy. And Denmark, they love the democratic process. If there's a national general election in Denmark, I think it's something like 87% of the public turn up for it, compared to sort of mid to low 60s in the UK and in the US. Again, I don't know the numbers for France, but anyway, for me, a democratic system that kind of works or works best, because as we all know, Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government apart from all the other ones. So, but it sort of, I think to have a system, a democratic system that works, it entails that the citizens who are voting kind of know what they're voting for.
Yep.
And know why they're voting, and know the system, and know the politics. And I see myself being a kind of a social sciences teacher, which is economy, sociology, and politics. I see myself, and I teach young Danes about voting, the voting system, the different sort of political ideologies, the different political parties, all that stuff. That's kind of like my job. I kind of would imagine that Denmark would want someone like me to vote.
Yeah.
So why doesn't it ask me to? That was one of the kind of points I was trying to make, is that, me voting here, me voting in Denmark for the general election is not just for my benefit, it's also for the benefit of Denmark.
Okay.
The more people who vote and know what they're voting for, the more kind of the better the system works, right? So that was one aspect of it. The other aspect was that the naturalization process of getting the passport was so geared towards, I'm just going to have to say it as it is, keeping Muslims out.
Okay.
So it was, and to sort of back that up, it was things like there was quite a lot of cases in Denmark about people kind of being sent to schools backwards and forwards to sort of Muslim countries and then coming back to Denmark and everything. So what they wanted you to do was they wanted me to document all short and long stays outside of Denmark since I arrived in 1999.
Oh God.
So I was thinking, right, okay. And lots of people said to me, and they're probably right, just lie or don't put everything down. But I thought, well, that's not the point, right? I've just gone home for a weekend to see my dad in London. At some point, I've got no idea. I can't remember, I've gone on holiday with my ex-wife to Greece. I can't remember what year that was. I can't remember the days, the month. I can't remember any of it. Like, why should I spend loads of time doing that? But again, it's not really about me that, because they wouldn't care. But if I had maybe a surname that was Arabic or something, and I'd left Denmark for more than 3 months, that would sort of be a red flag, right? Yeah. And then so there was lots of questions like that. So halfway through, I just sort of stopped it. But also what they've added at the end of this ceremony. So let's just say that I filled out all the forms. I did it all anyway. And they say, okay, we're going to give you the citizenship. Then you have to take a test. And it's a bit ridiculous. But yeah, loads of questions about maybe Danish culture or political figures or royalty or famous political events or scientists or something. You have to know that as well. And then when you've done that, right, then you have to turn up at the town hall. And what they added, and again, this is so cynical, what they added was that you have to shake the hand of whatever kind of local politician is going to hand it out. And that was purely designed because we do have some Muslims in Denmark who are, I think it only applies to Muslim women, but I don't want to overstate anything because I'm not sure, but who don't actually, have physical contact with other sort
somebody.
of to touch somebody. So they put that in. So even if you went through all that rigmarole, got it all sorted out, they would try and catch you at the final hurdle because they thought the handshake, that is what Danish people do. That is how Danish people greet one another. So they would quite literally, if you stood there and said, I'm not going to shake your hand because it's against my religion, they would say, okay, then you do not get your Danish nationality.
Yeah.
And for me, being the sort of person I am, I don't want to shake anyone's hand because of that rule. Now I don't want to shake anyone's hand. I don't feel like it. So if that politician is someone I don't agree with, or don't like, or don't know, then why should I want to shake their hand? So for me, that was kind of what my article was about. That if I do all those things, because I could easily do them, right? I could easily do all of that, no problem. But if I do it, then I legitimize what I think is an exclusionary process. Denmark isn't really welcoming anyone. It's trying to it's screening people that it doesn't want, and I don't want to be a part of that process. And I'm also, I also do realize though that if push came to shove, and all that stuff I said earlier about human rights or whatever, and the police were going to come and throw me out, then I'd probably just have to swallow all those principles. I'd probably have to swallow all those principles and do it. But I don't feel that I have to do that, so I'm just not going to do it, and I'm never going to do it.
I fully
rant over.
No, it's right. I fully respect your reasons for not doing that. That's literally racist. That's not like it's not something I would willingly ever support either. Like I'm gonna, for the record, like I do have every intention to apply for a French passport. I'm gonna probably do it this year, So why do you think that's an issue?
Why do I think?
What was it? Yeah, what? Because you seem to you said you were going to press me on it.
No, I just think that as you said yourself, right? You're there, you're living, you're doing well. You travel back to the UK, you go back to France. You've been here a couple of times. Your sort of current life seems to be fine. And I would imagine France has some kind of, maybe not like Denmark, but all countries have some kind of test you have to take, or something to do with French history, French this, French that. You might even have to learn the national anthem, Pat. And so I was thinking something that's sort of so tied to the idea of I think, what was it you were talking about, that all French politicians say "Vive la France" or "Vive la République"? Was it not that sort of that you're in a way going through this process? You're kind of in a way. What's the word? Underlining, being. I can only think of the Danish word. That's a really annoying thing. You're kind of basically legitimizing, this whole idea of the nation and la République.
Yep.
And that's why I think I was, it sort of surprised me to hear that you're going to do it.
Again, for the record, I do need to explain this. I mean, like, politically, I'm extremely left-wing. As in, like, I'm effectively an anti-national. I don't believe in countries. Like, for our listener and you, like I'm effectively an anarchist ideologically. I mean, I don't really like putting labels on it, but I would certainly be in that ballpark. I'm an anti-capitalist, absolutely. And I really don't believe in the idea of borders. I don't believe in the idea that people are illegal. I don't believe in any of that stuff. So, like, I understand in a way why that might surprise you, that I would apply for a French passport, because you do have to go through like a bunch of shit. I don't think you have to justify. You don't have to record your travel. I don't think you have to record movements, but you certainly do get like thoroughly examined. I think it takes about 2 years. I think.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to sing the national anthem. I don't think so. I think you do.
I would have travelled to Montpellier to record that,
to film that,
and put it on the podcast Instagram. Pat singing the French national anthem. Yeah.
The reason that I want to do it, there really is only one reason that I want to do it. Like if this were not the case, I wouldn't do it. Like, I would stay, just having my British passport, and that would be it. The reason that I want to do it is because of the rise of the extreme right in Europe, and we've spoken at length about Marine Le Pen, about what she stands for, etc., etc. Yeah, and there is a decent chance that like Marine Le Pen could find herself in a position of basically the French president in the next sort of like 3 or 4 years, and if that's the case, then anyone who's foreign is pretty likely to get their situation degraded like pretty quickly. And like we've spoken about how essentially like a lot of these politicians, they're effectively anti-Muslim, but like really it's just a catch-all thing. Effectively, we had changes in the law like pretty recently in France about. It was called the Loi d'immigration, so it effectively trying to stop people from, basically from North Africa, from the Arab states, coming to France, or certainly trying to limit it. But all it actually does is just makes life a lot more difficult for anybody that doesn't have a French passport. What it really boils down to, is the question.
Can you give an example of how that might affect you personally?
Well, for example, like Fiona and I are both. Fiona's she's got an Irish passport, so she's European. So she's European, and like she's got both. And so it may not affect us directly, but before this immigration law was passed, basically after a certain amount of time, if you're a child, for example, then it's called the droit de sol, the right of soil or the right of land. If you're actually here. For a certain amount of time, you're effectively entitled to a French passport, and that is being changed. And it's to basically make it more difficult for sort of like families to group together. Yeah. To sort of have this basically trying to stop this like automatic process of becoming a French national. And that applies to us. Like our kids are, the boys were like a year old when we moved over here. Meredith was 3, our daughter. And that means that before this law, it's actually being scrutinised by the courts at the moment to see whether or not it's even constitutional. So, but it did get through both the houses in Parliament. Before this law, they would have just been automatically given a French passport. Right. And now that's not specifically the case, even though they've lived here for almost their entire lives. But they were all born in Britain, you see, and because we've got British passports, then they've got British passports too, you see. The reason I want a French passport is because we are now living in an era where like these type of laws it's not just something that's the kind of derided in like the sort of the left wing and the centrist press. This is becoming real, and people like Macron they have to or they feel as though they have to kind of give into it in a way, because the laws are actually pretty popular, and obviously, which is why Marine Le Pen is gaining so much ground. I think they've got around 90 MPs, like Marine Le Pen's party in France, so they're pretty powerful already. And like next time, it could just go over the top, basically. Right. Yeah. So. I actually, funnily, I always get this type of question about, effectively it boils down to, am I being hypocritical? Based on my views, should I even be considering
Well,
this?
I didn't use those words, but I can kind of see how other people can land on that.
It's my job to analyse between the lines, Mike.
Right, okay,
and funnily, these questions, the only time I've ever been been asked these questions, it always comes from centrists and people on the right, like conservatives.
Right, okay, yeah.
Who because
guilty.
Because I'll give a couple of examples of it actually. Like like I said, I'm doing a master's in media, and for both years of the masters, I have to produce a long piece of creative work and a piece of research. And like last year, in my first year, I wrote a novel that was based on research into eco-anarchism, about green anarchism. And when I sort of pitched my project for the second year, one of the teachers basically said that he felt it was hypocritical to try to sell a novel about anarchism. Basically, because like anarchism obviously is, I mean, one of the mainstays of it is anti-capitalism.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. When we had to do a mock interview for our work placements with the teacher I had today, actually, and she asked me, it was a very similar question. She was like, I can see from your CV that you're an anarchist, basically. There was a lot of stuff on there about anarchist literature and and obviously about the novel that I wrote last year. So, she was basically playing the role of, somebody that was like planning on giving me a job, basically. She was just like, well, how do you justify the fact that you're effectively an anti-capitalist with the fact that you're searching for work? How do you balance your sort of commercial aspirations with your political leanings? And I can answer both of those questions.
And you got up, threw all the papers in the air and stormed out the door.
I said to her exactly what, I mean, I didn't say to the teacher because we were in like a massive freaking meeting.
Yeah.
But what I said to her is exactly right. It's just like, well, yeah, I can be an anarchist and I can be an anti-capitalist, but just because I'm an anti-capitalist, does that mean that I can't have anything to do with money ever when I live in a society where the only way I can live is to have something to do with money? If I don't get money, I live in a box. It's just like, I have to have money. I have 3 children and, I'm married, we have to have a house. We have to eat. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, at the end of the day, I have to do, in a society that basically is so critical of people that don't work. If I don't work, then I am an outcast. And especially being a foreign, I'm already an outcast because I don't have a French passport. So, it's the same in Britain. I assume it's the same in Denmark. We've talked about, attitudes towards work and so forth. I have to work. There's no, I have to, I have to get a job. To answer, the professor that, essentially said I was hypocritical to try and sort of seek a sort of a commercial element for an anarchist novel. By far the best way to spread any kind of message in any form, and certainly in the media, is through commercial channels. If I wrote a film about anarchism and sort of put it free on the internet, it's just it maybe by word of mouth it may spread. That is true, but it's far more likely to spread if it's on Netflix. Do you see? It's just if I'm sort of taking the militant aspects of my art, of what I'm doing as my production, my creative production, I want the most people as possible to see that. And if like I said, I live in a commercial society. There's very little I can do about that. So yes, I am an anarchist, but I also seek commercial opportunities, and that's because that is how messages are spread in our society.
Yeah. But my only, and I get all that and I understand it. What I would say, if just to sort of play devil's advocate, and you don't have to answer it, but it's just what comes into my mind. I get all that, and it all makes perfectly logical sense, and you're absolutely right in everything you say. But that then basically just pretty much proves the fact that anarchy is just pie in the sky. It's unrealistic. It doesn't. It can't happen. It won't happen because it's obviously all ideologies are obviously just based on an idea. So that's within itself.
Capitalism is an ideology.
Pure libertarianism or pure socialism or pure conservatism. There are no countries where you have it's all you do is you try and push politics in the direction of the ideology. But really, as you said yourself, you can't be an anarchist 100% because you have to work. You just have to. You have to go to work. You have to have money. You have to feed your children.
By that logic, I can only be a dead anarchist.
Yeah, that's it. I mean? Yeah, exactly. So basically, then anarchy.
So it doesn't make any sense. It's just how can I can still be an anarchist, but I still have to exist, and I can still basically put that message out into the world. But by doing so, I go on demonstrations. I go to meetings, whatever. I go to debates, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to be productive, in terms of my fiction, people are going to have to buy that stuff.
No, yeah, mate, I'm 100% in agreement with you.
But for this teacher, I was really quite shocked because he's a clever guy. Do you know what I mean? It's just you're literally incorrect. Incorrect, Mike. Incorrect.
Well,
anyway.
As I said, I would then just argue that maybe you have sort of anarchist leanings, but the kind of the idea of pure anarchy is just it's just like it's just impossible.
Well, it's only as impossible as pure capitalism, which is what we all live under. Yeah, but anyway, we're getting off the point. Like, let's just get seriously.
But the thing is, though, we don't live off pure because most, at least Western societies, have regulations. Okay. We don't have a pure. You have maybe minimum wage, for example, in France.
Yeah, we do.
Right, that is a regulation of capitalism. That isn't pure capitalism.
That is a regulation of capitalism.
You also have banks. Banks have to pay certain dividends. There's certain checks on the banks. Again, after the crash in 2007, that's even more regulation. All I'm saying is, capitalism is
regulation or not. We all live under a system that is entirely 100% governed by the flow of capital.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But capitalism usually is under. No, sorry. That sounds. Doesn't matter. That sounds like I'm mansplaining. It sounds like I'm mansplaining to you. I understand capitalism as everything is pure supply and demand with nothing in between. So if I want to do a job for you for €1 an hour, then you pay me that €1. That's between us. You can obviously make millions out of the fact that I can do it. But if I'm offering my labour for that price, you can just take it. For me, that is the essence of pure capitalism. And we do not have that pretty much anywhere in the world. So my argument to you is that pure anarchism, it's just not going to happen, is it? It's just, So,
Well, it won't, like if people like my teacher accuse sort of anarchist authors of being hypocritical for trying to get a book deal. Yeah, that is the case.
But as I said, I agree with all your arguments.
But I agree. You have to work. This is a really long discussion because, you are right in a way because, pure anarchism, effectively,
you don't need the in a way bit,
all of the no, it's true. All of the sort of real world examples of anarchism in inverted commas in action are effectively almost none of them are actual anarchism. And it's a different podcast, Mike.
It's a different podcast, but it's an interesting discussion, and hopefully we've kind of got some thoughts going.
I think so.
With our listener.
To relate that to the idea of me getting a passport.
Yeah.
So really, the sort of the argument is that makes me hypocritical is that I don't agree with countries, therefore I can't have a French passport.
Well, no. This
really boils down to
going through the sort of French nationalism process. It's not about not having. I'm sure if they just sent it to you in the post, no one would call you a hypocrite for saying thanks for that. It's
then how else do I get one?
Yeah, but why you don't need one?
That is not the case. This really boils down to the question of identity at the end of the day and how identity is viewed, specifically in the idea of the nation. I mean, me searching. I've been in France for too long. It's chercher in French. You see, looking for or seeking a French passport has nothing to do with national identity at all. And the two notions, nationality and national identity, are two notions which are very easily confused and deliberately so. Really, the further right you go, the deeper the confusion gets. They are not the same thing. Right? They are distinct. National identity, Mike, is a fiction. It is not real. You can believe in it if you like, but that doesn't mean it's real in any way. As Philip K. Dick famously said to one of his students at Berkeley in the 60s when he was asked to give a simple definition of reality, he said, "The reality, I'm paraphrasing, is what refuses to go away when you stop believing in it." I don't believe in national identity. I just don't believe in it. You can choose to believe it if you want. I mean, we talked about the idea of the national narrative in relation to the Danish Queen like last time.
Yeah,
which is perpetuated by the media. It's not real. It's fiction. It is fiction.
Yeah.
Obviously, the question of why there is this deliberate ambiguity in terms of the presentation of nationality and national identity is a big topic, and but I would encourage our listener to ask yourself why there is a confusion between those two elements, and who's creating that confusion, and like why it's constantly perpetuated. It's a different topic.
So to answer the question in to sum it up, you want a French passport because you feel that I
feel threatened.
Yeah, you feel threatened.
I don't know if any of you have been watching the news this week. I mean, you've seen in Germany the AfD, which is the far right in Germany, which is becoming increasingly popular. They're becoming powerful. Have been basically busted. They've been leaked. Their plans for a mass deportation process have been leaked. So apparently the AfD has been in conversations with neo-Nazis about deporting people en masse from Germany. And this is not like it's not Germany, for those of you who don't know, had a large amount of Turkish immigration at I don't want to say the wrong decade. Like it's I can't remember where it happened. It was somewhere. I think
they had a lot of Turkish immigration.
Yeah, they had a lot of Turkish immigration, and there was a lot of immigration under Angela Merkel as well from the Syrian war. I think a lot of Syrian people went to Germany as well. And so the AfD's plans effectively just target. It's not just Turkish people. It's foreigners, people who aren't German. Now, like, talk about the confusion between national identity and nationality. That just means that everyone who doesn't have a German passport, that's literally what it means. We talk about like objectivity and subjectivity in relation to the nation in terms of your national identity. I am like literally British. Like but what that means to me is that I was born, my mother gave birth to me in Nottingham in 1973. Which is geographically on a part of the map that is currently part of the British state. That's literally what it means. It means nothing else to me at all. It's just all it means is that's where I was born, which means that I have a British passport. That's my nationality. We live in a world that is formed of nations. I can't help that. I can't change it. Do you know what I mean? I was born there. Am I British? No. Like, if we want to put inverted commas around it, and sort of like talk about do I, fucking, go and eat fish and chips on a Friday night and drink 10 pints of Stella and go down the footy and wave a Union Jack and get, a bulldog tattooed on my ass? Like, no, I'm not. I know that, for a lot of people, that's not what British means. Do I, feel emotional when the Queen dies? No. etc., etc. I don't it means absolutely nothing to me. And this sort of national stirring in terms of national identity is an alien concept to me and always has been since I was a kid. Okay. So if I have to jump through some fucking hoops,
methinks the man doth protest too much.
If I have to jump through some fucking hoops,
yeah,
right, to fucking stand in front of, in some kind of fucking council building, and sort of go, yeah, fine, here's all my bits of paper, and yeah, I can speak French, and yeah, I know, I'm sure you're very proud of me, whatever, just give me the bit of paper, which means that Marine Le Pen can't kick me out of France.
Right.
I will do that. Because at the end of the day, like I said, in terms of the AfD in Germany, they're pretty closely aligned with with Marine Le Pen's point of view. If all of a sudden there were, we're literally talking about a situation where the idea of mass deportation of non-nationals is a reality in a major European country. You know what I mean? Frankly, Mike, I'm fucking shitting it.
Really?
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, fucking for real.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just like, I mean, do you not feel in the remote... I guess your situation is a bit different, you see. Like, none of us have got French nationality, you see. Like, like Fiona's got a European passport. That's it.
Yeah. No, well, I don't, I don't, I don't know. I just, maybe I'm just naive. They
first they came for the Arabs, Mike.
That's right. Yeah, what I mean? I don't feel in any way threatened. I don't feel in any way that I maybe I just have too much. Because why? Why would anyone want?
Because you're not Danish.
Yeah. So what? I contribute to the society. I pay my taxes.
Yeah, I know, but
my children are Danish. My children are Danish.
Yeah, but what if there was some kind of like fucking idiot in the council that just goes, you haven't got a Danish passport. You haven't filled in this bit of paper or whatever. We've all seen these stories in the news, right? Of people getting kicked out of Britain.
I'd get a lawyer, and we'd have the International Court of Human Rights would say he can stay where he is. Thanks very much, and then those two can deal with it.
Well,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Like,
it's
fine,
luxury.
I don't know. Like, I'm literally, I'm an anti-fascist. I spend a lot of time like thinking about like fascism. I do. I've done a lot of reading about fascists and anarchists and so forth. And what's happening in Germany has happened before. It's like I'm not. The rise of Marine Le Pen like really does concern me genuinely. It's just like I don't want to. If basically I'm entitled to a French passport because I've been here for so long, and all I've got and basically what I've got to do is go through I don't think it's a racist process. As far as I'm aware, that there's nothing like the sort of handshaking rule in the sort of like French nationality process. I don't think that happens. I'm pretty sure that you have to show that you can speak French to like B1 or B2 level, I think.
Right.
And you have to like answer a bunch of questions about like French history and French politics.
Yeah,
I think you have to show
that's normal.
that,
I think for every country. Yeah,
you have to show that you know who the sort of like foreign minister is and blah blah. I think. I'm pretty sure that's it. I think as long as you get through all the checks, then you're French.
Well, I think we should round it off there, but also go back to it when you actually apply. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to hear about what you actually have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you get the passport, we'll all come round and send French flags and hang them outside the house.
I'll stand outside saluting the...
That's it. Vive la France or vive la République. That's it, So, oh my God. I can't wait. I cannot wait to celebrate you, Pat, to celebrate your Frenchness.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But yeah, I think we'll leave it there. And it all of a sudden turned into what I actually thought it wouldn't be a long pod this week, and now we're coming up on close to an hour.
Not bad.
So if you're still listening out there, thank you very much for listening. Remember again that you can contact us on forrinpodcast@gmail.com. If anything we've said in this episode or previous episodes, you have any questions about or bones to pick or corrections to make, then we want to learn, we want to do better, be better. And there's also the Instagram profile, which is @forrinpodcast. But I think for now, I'm going to say goodbye, Pat. What about you?
I'm going to say goodbye too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.